One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
July 20th, 1969. Humanity holds its breath as a grainy broadcast flickers across millions of television screens. In an age before smartphones, before the internet, before we could stream the world in our pocket, the landing of Apollo 11 became a shared global moment. Two astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, are descending toward the lunar surface. The crackling voice from Mission Control carries an entire civilization's dreams. Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. With those words, history changed. Or did it? In the decades since, a persistent piece of modern folklore has emerged. The claim that the moon landing was an elaborate hoax, staged by NASA on a secret set. Tonight, we explore this conspiracy and the science, engineering, and history that reveal the truth. Conspiracy theories about the moon landing didn't explode immediately, but within a few years, fueled by political distrust, the Cold War, and the power of television, the doubts took root. Books like We Never Went to the Moon and later television specials suggested NASA had faked the entire mission to beat the Soviet Union in the space race.
That claimed the astronauts never ever landed on the moon.
To understand why some people believe the conspiracy, we need to examine the claims themselves. Perhaps the most iconic image from Apollo 11 is the American flag. Detractors argue, if there's no atmosphere on the moon, why is the flag waving? The flag wasn't waving because of wind. It was wobbling because the astronauts were twisting and pushing the pole into the lunar soil. With no air resistance, motion dampens slowly. Once they let go, the movement gradually stopped. The flag doesn't ripple like cloth caught in a breeze. It simply sways from mechanical disturbance. In fact, NASA even designed the flag with a horizontal support rod so it would appear proudly unfurled, despite the moon's airless environment. No wind, just physics. Photographs from the moon show shadows pointing in different directions, something conspiracy theorists claim proves artificial lighting. It's simple terrain geometry. The lunar surface is not flat. It's full of dips, bumps, and uneven ground. When you have a single strong light source, the sun, shadows fall at various angles depending on the slope. This effect is easily reproduced on Earth. A single flashlight shining across a rough surface makes shadows appear to diverge, even though the light source is singular. Uneven ground creates strange shadow angles. No Hollywood lighting required. Many people imagine the moon as a dark sky filled with brilliant stars. So why aren't they visible in Apollo photos? Photography is about exposure. The astronauts were shooting bright, sunlit terrain and white spacesuits. To avoid overexposure, they needed short shutter speeds and small apertures. Stars are too faint to appear in those conditions, just like you can't see stars in daytime photos on Earth. The cameras were functioning exactly as expected. No stars isn't a mystery. It's a textbook example of normal exposure behavior. The stars were there, but the cameras weren't set to capture them. One of the most emotional claims is that computers in 1969 were too primitive to land humans on the moon. People underestimate what those systems were built to do. The Apollo guidance computer was simple by today's standards, but incredibly reliable. It didn't need to run video games. It needed to run precise navigation algorithms, and it did that flawlessly. The Apollo program didn't rely on computers alone. It relied on thousands of engineers, technicians, mathematicians, and astronauts. A global workforce united around a singular mission. 1960s computers were limited, but perfectly capable for the task they were designed for. The Van Allen radiation belts encircle Earth with energetic particles. Conspiracy believers argue the astronauts would have been lethally irradiated. Radiation expert: the Apollo spacecraft didn't linger in the belts. They passed through them quickly. Radiation exposure was well below lethal levels. NASA calculated the routes carefully to minimize risk. In total, Apollo astronauts received less radiation than many airline pilots accumulate over years of commercial flights. A brief pass through the belts was not dangerous.
When you stack the evidence, the rock samples, independent satellite images of landing sites, laser reflectors still used for experiments today, and the testimonies of thousands who worked on Apollo, the conclusion becomes clear. The moon landings were real, messy, risky, audacious, and entirely real. But conspiracy theories don't thrive on evidence. They thrive on doubt. Conspiracy theories offer simple answers to complex events. They create order from chaos, villains from institutions, and intrigue where reality feels mundane.
But critical thinking isn't about accepting official narratives blindly. It's about evaluating evidence, questioning assumptions, and confronting our own biases. The Apollo 11 mission remains one of humanity's greatest achievements. It challenged the limits of science, engineering, and courage. And it reminds us of what we can accomplish when skepticism is paired not with cynicism, but with curiosity. This is the story of the moon landing. Real, fragile, and human. One small step for man, and one giant leap for truth.